Michael Bennett, the meticulous manager of the First National Bank, observed everything from his position behind the counter. The man, who was black, was calmly arguing with David, the robust and rigid security guard. Emma, a young teller, watched the scene with curiosity, noting the visitor's discomfort as he was prevented from entering. After a brief attempted argument, the man left, casting a final glance at Emma. She didn't know it, but that seemingly insignificant encounter would change their lives forever. A week later, Michael received an urgent memo and gathered all the employees. The tension in the air was palpable. The notice of a possible criminal threat made everyone look to him for guidance. Thus, the bank's routine suddenly transformed, and everyone was immersed in a mystery that was just beginning. The morning sun illuminated the windows of the imposing First National Bank building. Michael Bennett, the manager, was at his post, reviewing the day's agenda. He was a middle-aged man with carefully combed gray hair and an impeccable suit. Michael valued order and the bank's image, believing that first impressions were crucial, which is why he demanded that all employees maintain a high standard of presentation and behavior. At the entrance, the security guards, David and Ryan, were as attentive as always. David, a robust man in his 40s with a stern look, greeted customers with a nod, while Ryan, younger and with a serious expression, watched the security cameras. Michael looked up when he noticed a man approaching the revolving door. The man was black and dressed in worn jeans and a faded t-shirt, his hair disheveled and his beard unkempt. The man seemed out of place in this environment of luxury and sophistication. David was the first to address him. "Can I help you?" he asked in a tone that mixed politeness with firmness. The man looked around, appearing uncomfortable but maintaining his posture. "I just need to withdraw money," he replied calmly. Michael, from his privileged position behind the counter, watched the scene intently. He was a man of quick judgments and did not like surprises. "I'm sorry, sir, but the bank's dress code requires customers to be properly dressed," David explained, blocking the entrance with his body. The man sighed, looking a bit frustrated but not arguing. He just nodded and turned to leave. Michael watched him as he walked away, feeling a tinge of satisfaction for maintaining the bank's atmosphere according to his standards. Emma, a young teller in her 20s with her brown hair tied back in a ponytail, observed the scene with an intrigued expression. She was new to the bank, still adjusting to the strict rules and routines. When the man left, she turned to Michael. "Who was that man?" she asked, curiosity evident in her voice. Michael shrugged without taking his eyes off the papers in front of him. "Just someone who doesn't understand the importance of presenting oneself properly in a respectable establishment," he replied curtly. Emma bit her lip but didn't ask any more questions. Deep down, she felt there was something more to that man, something that didn't fit the image of a simple customer. But for now, she kept her doubts to herself. In the following days, Emma noticed that the man returned to the bank several times. He never tried to enter again, but he stood across the street, observing. Sometimes, he smiled almost imperceptibly, which left Emma even more intrigued. She began to pay more attention, noticing details that escaped the others. One morning, while organizing some documents, Emma saw the man again, this time standing near a nearby cafe. She decided she couldn't ignore her curiosity any longer. During her break, she left the bank and walked to the cafe. The man was sitting at a table on the sidewalk, drinking a coffee. When Emma approached, he looked up and smiled, a gentle and calm smile. "Hi," Emma said, feeling a bit nervous. "I'm Emma. I work at the bank. I've noticed you've been around there frequently." The man nodded, seeming relaxed. "My name is Jacob," he replied, "and yes, I've been observing the bank." Emma frowned, trying to understand. "Why? What do you want?" Jacob took a sip of his coffee before answering. "Let's just say I'm conducting an evaluation. But don't worry, I'm not here to cause trouble." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in Jacob's eyes that made her believe his words, but at the same time, she knew she had to be cautious. "What kind of evaluation?" she repeated, uncertain. Jacob smiled but didn't give more details. "Just trust me, Emma. Soon everything will be clear." Emma returned to the bank with mixed emotions. She knew she should tell Michael, but something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the way Jacob trusted her. or the feeling that he was genuinely there to help. And so, the day continued at the First National Bank without anyone except Emma knowing that something was about to change forever. Days at the First National Bank dragged on in a predictable routine. Michael maintained his austere demeanor, always attentive to the smallest details. The security guards, David and Ryan, performed their duties without question, while the other employees continued with their daily tasks. However, Emma felt that something was out of place since her conversation with Jacob. On Monday morning, Emma arrived at the bank earlier than usual. She wanted to talk to Jacob again, try to understand better what he was doing. As she approached the bank, she saw him across the street, standing and watching the movement with a thoughtful expression. Determined, Emma crossed the street and approached him. "Good morning, Jacob," she said, trying to sound casual. "Can we talk?" Jacob turned to her, his blue eyes shining with calm curiosity. "Of course, Emma. What do you want to know?" Emma took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. "I still don't understand what you're doing here. Why are you watching the bank, and what did you mean by evaluation?" Jacob paused, looking at the bank building before answering. "Emma, my job is to analyze the security of important places. I was hired to evaluate the First National Bank discreetly. The goal is to identify flaws and vulnerabilities before people with bad intentions can exploit them." Emma felt a mix of relief and apprehension. Jacob didn't seem dangerous, but the idea of someone spying on the bank still bothered her. "And why didn't you say that from the beginning?" she asked, trying to stay calm. Jacob smiled slightly. "If I had said it, I would have lost the element of surprise. I need to see how things really work without people knowing they're being watched." Emma nodded slowly, starting to understand the logic behind Jacob's actions. "But now you've told me," she said. "Doesn't that compromise your evaluation?" Jacob shrugged. "I trust you won't say anything. Besides, I've observed enough to have a clear idea of the necessary improvements." Emma bit her lip, thoughtful. "And what have you found so far?" Jacob looked at her, his face serious. "More than I expected. There are some significant flaws that need to be corrected." Before Emma could ask more, Michael appeared at the bank's door, frowning at seeing Emma talking to Jacob. "Emma, what are you doing out here?" he asked, his voice loaded with suspicion. Emma turned quickly, trying to hide her nervousness. "I was just talking to a friend," she replied, forcing a smile. Michael gave Jacob a piercing look. "And who are you?" Jacob remained calm, but his smile disappeared. "I'm Jacob, just discussing some business with Emma." Michael didn't seem convinced but decided not to press further for the moment. "Emma, we need you inside. We have a customer waiting." Emma nodded and said goodbye to Jacob with a gesture before returning to the bank with Michael. While attending to the customer, Emma couldn't stop thinking about her conversation with Jacob. She felt she should tell Michael, but something held her back. Maybe it was the way Jacob trusted her, or the feeling that he was genuinely there to help. Later, during lunch, Emma went to the break room where she found Sarah, a coworker. Sarah was a woman in her 30s, always in a good mood and willing to chat. "Hi, Emma. Are you okay? You look worried," Sarah said, taking a cup of coffee. Emma hesitated for a moment before responding. "I'm trying to understand something. Have you ever heard of someone being hired to test the security of a place?" Sarah frowned, thoughtful. "I think so. I've heard of companies hiring people to do that, like an audit. Why do you ask?" Emma shrugged, trying to appear casual. "Just curiosity. I heard something about it and got intrigued." Sarah nodded, but before she could say more, Michael entered the room, looking more tense than usual. "Everyone, back to work. We have a busy day ahead," he said firmly. Emma returned to the counter, but her mind kept working. She decided she would keep Jacob's secret for a little longer. Maybe he was right, and his intentions were truly good. That afternoon, while Emma was attending to another customer, she noticed Jacob passing by the street again. This time, he seemed more attentive, observing the details carefully. She felt a mix of unease and curiosity, wishing to know more about what he had discovered. The day ended without major incidents, but Emma knew something was about to change. The mysterious Jacob and his secret mission were just the beginning of a series of events that would shake the foundations of the First National Bank. The clock on the wall of the First National Bank struck 9 a.m. when all employees were summoned for an urgent meeting. Michael was particularly tense that morning, his tie loose and face pale, something rare for someone so meticulous. He had called everyone to the meeting room, a spacious area with large windows that let in the morning light, illuminating the long oak table. Emma sat next to Sarah, trying to hide the anxiety she felt since her last conversation with Jacob. The employees murmured among themselves, exchanging worried glances. Michael entered the room, holding a paper that trembled slightly in his hands. He cleared his throat to get attention and began reading the memo aloud without preamble. Attention all First National Bank employees. We have been informed of a potential security threat. A criminal group has shown interest in our institution, and there are suspicions they are planning a coordinated attack. We must be vigilant and report any suspicious activity immediately. Michael paused, looking up to make eye contact with his colleagues. This is serious. We need to double our efforts to ensure the bank's and everyone's safety here. A heavy silence settled in the room. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. She knew she needed to talk to Jacob again, but Michael's presence made it complicated. Sarah turned to her with wide eyes. Do you think this has to do with that guy you mentioned? Sarah whispered. Emma hesitated, but before she could respond, Michael continued. From today on, we will increase security at the entrances and exits. David and Ryan, I need you to be especially alert. Any suspicious person must be reported immediately. The guards nodded, their faces reflecting the seriousness of the situation. Emma knew she needed to find a way to talk to Jacob without raising suspicion. She decided to wait until the end of the day to try to find him again. As the meeting continued, Emma could barely concentrate. Her mind repeatedly returned to Jacob's words, I'm here to evaluate the bank's security. Did he know about the threat? She had to find out, but she couldn't just leave and look for him in the middle of the meeting. After almost an hour, Michael ended the meeting, and the employees returned to their posts, still apprehensive. Emma tried to act normal, attending to customers and performing her tasks, but her mind was elsewhere. She needed answers. At the end of the day, when the bank was almost empty, Emma decided it was her chance. She quickly said goodbye to Sarah and left the bank, walking to the cafe where she always saw Jacob. To her surprise, he was there, sitting at the same table as always, with a calm demeanor. Jacob, I need to talk to you, Emma said, sitting down without waiting for an invitation. Jacob looked at her with a serious expression. I figured you'd come to find me. What happened? Emma told him about the memo and the meeting, watching every reaction of Jacob. He frowned, looking worried. This confirms my suspicions, he said finally. The bank is really at risk. I've already identified several security flaws, but I didn't think the threat was so imminent. Emma felt her heart racing. What should we do? You need to tell Michael. Jacob slowly shook his head. Not yet. I need more time to finish my evaluation and prepare a complete report. If I speak now without concrete evidence, Michael could simply ignore me or, worse, try to cover up the problems. Emma sighed, feeling helpless. And what if it's too late? They seem very prepared to attack. Jacob placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Trust me, Emma. I'm close to finishing. Tomorrow, I'll present my report to Michael and ensure he takes the necessary measures. Until then, we need to be vigilant and make sure no suspicious person enters the bank. Emma nodded, although still worried. She returned to the bank the next day, determined to keep her eyes open for any signs of danger. The atmosphere in the bank was tense, with all employees on high alert. Despite the tension, Michael tried to maintain a calm and professional facade, spending more time talking to the guards, ensuring they were attentive to any anomalies. Mid-morning, Emma noticed a man entering the bank. He wore an impeccable suit, but something in his posture made her suspicious. He seemed nervous, looking around suspiciously. Emma decided to follow her instinct and alerted David, who quickly approached the man. Can I help you, sir? David asked firmly. The man hesitated, clearly surprised. Before he could respond, Jacob entered the bank with a determined look. He went straight to Michael, who was talking to a customer. Michael, we need to talk now, Jacob said firmly and authoritatively. Michael looked at him, confused and irritated. Who are you to come in like this and interrupt my work? Jacob remained calm, but his voice was urgent. "I'm Jacob, the security consultant hired to evaluate this bank, and if we don't act now, it could be too late." Michael frowned, but something in Jacob's expression convinced him. He nodded and followed Jacob to a private meeting room. Emma watched everything, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. Finally, the cards were on the table, and the real battle for the security of the First National Bank was about to begin. The First National Bank was busier than usual that morning. The news of the attempted attack had spread quickly, and many customers were worried, wanting assurances that their money was safe. Michael had called another meeting to discuss the next steps. Jacob was by his side, ready to present his final report. Emma was especially anxious. She knew Jacob's report would reveal all the flaws he had identified during his observations and hoped that Michael would be willing to take the necessary measures. The meeting room was full, with all employees seated around the large oak table. Michael stood up and looked at everyone with a serious face before starting. "I want to thank everyone for the effort and dedication over the past few days. Thanks to teamwork, we avoided a disaster. Now, Jacob will present his report on the security flaws and recommendations for improvement." Jacob nodded, distributed copies of his report to each person present, and began to speak. "During my observations, I identified several areas that need improvement. First, the security at the entrances and exits. We need a more robust surveillance system with additional cameras and better coverage. I also recommend installing an access control system with ID cards for all employees." He paused, letting everyone absorb the information. "Secondly, cybersecurity. Our network has vulnerabilities that can be exploited by hackers. We need stronger firewalls, updated security software, and employee training on safe internet practices." The employees murmured among themselves, exchanging worried glances. Emma noticed that Sarah seemed especially tense. In addition, Jacob continued, "We need to improve our emergency procedures. Employees should receive regular training to know how to react in case of an invasion or other crisis. Finally, I recommend hiring a security company to conduct periodic audits and ensure we are always one step ahead of threats." Michael looked at the reports in his hands and then at Jacob. "All this makes a lot of sense. We need to act quickly to implement these changes. Emma, could you coordinate the employee training?" Emma nodded, feeling a mix of relief and responsibility. "Of course, Michael. I'll start organizing everything today." Michael continued firmly, "We will invest in improving cybersecurity immediately. Ryan, I'll need you to work with the IT team to ensure all our networks are protected." Ryan nodded, looking determined. "I'll do it, Michael." Jacob looked around the room, ensuring everyone understood the seriousness of the situation. These measures are just the beginning. Security is an ongoing process. We must always be vigilant and ready to adapt our strategies as threats evolve. After the meeting, Michael approached Jacob. "Thank you, Jacob. Your work has made a big difference here." Jacob smiled. "I just did what was necessary, and you helped a lot too, Emma. Without your trust, we might not have been able to act in time." Emma felt encouraged by Jacob's words. She knew the journey was just beginning, but was determined to do her part. In the days that followed, the bank began implementing Jacob's recommendations. New security cameras were installed, and all employees received ID cards. Emma organized training sessions, teaching the staff how to react in emergency situations. One day, while reviewing some documents, Emma received a message from Sarah asking to meet in the break room. Emma went there, finding Sarah sitting with a concerned expression. "What's wrong, Sarah?" Emma asked, sitting next to her. Sarah sighed. "I don't know how to say this, Emma. I'm worried about something I discovered." Emma frowned, feeling the tension in the air. "What did you discover?" Sarah looked around, ensuring no one was listening, then whispered, "I found some suspicious transactions in the bank's records. Large sums of money moving to unknown accounts. Something's not right." Emma felt a chill. "Did you show Michael?" Sarah shook her head. "Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. I don't know what to do." Emma thought for a moment, recalling Jacob's words about cybersecurity vulnerabilities. "I think we need to talk to him. He can help us understand better what's going on." Sarah nodded, still looking nervous. "Okay, let's talk to him." Emma and Sarah went to Jacob's office, where he was reviewing some documents. He looked up as they approached. "Jacob, we need your help," Emma said, quickly explaining the situation. Jacob frowned, clearly concerned. "Let's review those records. If there's something suspicious, we need to uncover it as soon as possible." The three spent the next hour analyzing the documents Sarah had found. Jacob quickly identified the suspicious transactions and began tracing a pattern. "This is not good," he said finally. "It looks like someone is using the bank system to launder money. We need to investigate this thoroughly." Emma felt the gravity of the situation. "What should we do now?" Jacob thought for a moment. "We need to involve the police and banking authorities. This is serious and could compromise the entire bank's operation." Emma nodded. Knowing this would mean facing a new storm. "All right, let's talk to Michael and see how he wants to proceed." When they explained everything to Michael, he turned pale but maintained his composure. "We will cooperate with the police and ensure the culprits are punished. We can't allow this to continue." With Jacob, Emma, and Sarah's help, the police launched a full investigation. The following weeks were tumultuous, with constant audits and interrogations, but thanks to the security measures implemented and continuous vigilance, the bank managed to neutralize the threat. In the end, Michael called another meeting to thank everyone for their effort. "I want to thank especially Jacob, Emma, and Sarah for their dedication and courage. Thanks to you, we protected our bank and our customers." The employees applauded, feeling proud of the work done. Jacob, modest as always, just smiled. It was a team effort. Everyone did their part. Emma felt a wave of satisfaction. The bank was safer, and she knew that regardless of future challenges, they were prepared to face them together. Life at the First National Bank would continue now with a new perspective of security and confidence, knowing that with determination and teamwork, they could overcome any adversity. The morning sun illuminated the windows of the First National Bank, reflecting a new beginning. The crisis had passed, and the bank was safer than ever. Jacob was still there, helping implement the latest security recommendations. Emma felt more confident, knowing they had overcome significant challenges together. However, something unexpected was about to happen. Jacob had a secret, something that would change everyone's perception of him. That morning, Michael called another meeting. He was radiant, his demeanor reflecting the satisfaction of seeing the bank functioning perfectly. "Good morning, everyone," he began. "I want to start by thanking you again for the incredible effort from each of you. We are stronger and better prepared to face any challenge." Everyone applauded, but Jacob remained serious. He knew it was time to reveal the truth. "Before you continue, Michael," Jacob interrupted, standing up, "I need to say something important." Michael looked at Jacob, surprised, but nodded. "Of course, Jacob. What is it?" Jacob took a deep breath, looking at each person present. "I'm not just a security consultant. I was sent here by an international audit firm to investigate not only the security flaws, but also the bank's internal operations." The silence that followed was palpable. Everyone was stunned, trying to process the information. Michael was the first to recover. "Are you saying you've been investigating us all this time?" Jacob nodded, remaining calm. "Yes, Michael. And what I've discovered is disturbing. Besides the security flaws, I found evidence of illegal financial activities that go beyond what we've already discussed. It's not just about money laundering, but also fund misappropriation and internal fraud." Michael turned pale, but tried to maintain his composure. "And why didn't you tell us before?" Jacob looked directly into Michael's eyes. "Because I needed concrete evidence. Now, with Emma and Sarah's help, I've gathered enough to involve the competent authorities." Emma felt her heart race. She knew Jacob was right, but the public revelation left her nervous. Sarah beside her seemed equally worried. Michael composed himself, although his voice trembled slightly. "What do you suggest we do now?" Jacob paused before answering. "We need to fully cooperate with the investigation. The company I work for is already in contact with the authorities. They will be here soon to conduct a full audit." The atmosphere in the room became tense. Employees murmured among themselves, worried about what was to come. Michael, feeling the pressure, looked at Jacob with a mix of gratitude and distrust. "All right, we'll do whatever it takes to clean up this situation. Thank you, Jacob, for warning us in time." Later, as the audit team arrived at the bank, Emma met Jacob in the break room. She needed some answers. "Why didn't you tell us from the beginning?" she asked, trying to hide the resentment in her voice. Jacob sighed, looking tired. "I wanted to, Emma, but if I had revealed everything earlier, I wouldn't have gotten the evidence I needed. I knew you'd understand, which is why I trusted you and Sarah to help me uncover the truth." Emma nodded, although she still felt a tinge of resentment. "I hope all this is worth it, Jacob. The bank has changed a lot since you arrived, and I really believe we are on the right track." Jacob smiled, a smile full of understanding. "It will be worth it, Emma. Sometimes we need to face the truth to change for the better." The audit was rigorous and lasted weeks. During that time, many irregularities were discovered, and some people within the bank were fired or arrested. Michael worked tirelessly to cooperate with the authorities and ensure the bank emerged stronger from this experience. With time, life at the First National Bank began to return to normal, though with a new layer of vigilance and responsibility. Emma continued working closely with Jacob, implementing new policies and procedures to ensure the bank's integrity. On a particularly sunny day, Michael called another meeting, this time with a celebratory tone. "I want to thank everyone again for the incredible work done. We've been through a tough time, but we came out stronger and more united. I want to especially thank Jacob, Emma, and Sarah for their tireless work and dedication." Everyone applauded, and Jacob stood up to say a few words. "It's been a privilege working with all of you. Although my mission here was challenging, it has been rewarding to see the resilience and commitment of each one. Continue to be vigilant and committed to the bank's integrity." After the meeting, Jacob and Emma went for coffee. Sitting at a table on the sidewalk, they reflected on everything that had happened. "It seems we've been through a lot in a short time," Emma said, looking at Jacob. Jacob nodded, his gaze distant. "Yes, it's been an intense journey, but I'm confident the bank is in good hands now." Emma smiled, feeling a new admiration for Jacob. "Thank you for everything, Jacob. You made a big difference here." Jacob smiled back, lightly touching Emma's hand. "You too, Emma. I couldn't have done it without you." As they finished their coffee, Emma felt a new sense of optimism. She knew that regardless of future challenges, they were prepared to face them together. Life at the First National Bank would continue now with a new perspective of security and confidence, ready for any adversity that came their way. And so, the story of resilience and transformation at the First National Bank came to a conclusion, but each of their journeys continued with the certainty that they were prepared to face the future with courage and determination.